Good afternoon, Synergy. Welcome to getting desktops and applications on demand with the XenDesktop and XenApp SDK. My name's Stuart Moore. I'm Senior Product Manager at Citrix. Cover Studio and the Management SDK and the MCS and PVS provisioning technologies. In today's session, we'll be going through how you can create desktops and applications on demand, and we'll be exploring some of the power of the SDK. I would like you to tweet about the session using the hashtag XDXASDK and Citrix Synergy. Thank you. So the agenda, we'll walk through what it is, how you can install it and start writing code. We'll look at some existing Citrix examples of the SDK, which really highlight the flexibility and the power of this automation framework. In the How Can I Use It section, we'll cover a couple of examples which will demonstrate really the power of the automation, and then we'll kind of close up with how you can find some more information and get going. So first up, I'd like to call out some great Citrix examples of where we use this SDK today. The most notable is probably the Studio, right? XenDesktop and XenApp admin console is entirely driven by the PowerShell SDK. And we'll see evidence of that later when we walk through the PowerShell window, which is a great way of getting some code out of Studio, essentially using Studio as your almost IDE to drive the SDK. Another example is the config manager connector. So the Microsoft Solutions team at Citrix use the SDK to do their automation. They don't use any hidden Citrix magic. They don't use any hidden APIs or anything like that. They use the same SDK that's used by Studio and available to you guys as well. There's also another example, Director. Now, whilst Director is obviously primarily a reporting tool, there are some uses of the SDK used within it. But it does also make use of another SDK called the Open Data API. I won't be exploring this today, but it uses the same kind of principles. All the reporting metrics that you see in Director are available to you through the Open Data API. And I'll point you at eDocs, which will have some examples and some background documentation on how the Open Data API works. So how do you get to it? Well, perhaps the easiest way is to just take the Meta installer, install Studio, either on your development PC, your laptop, or I guess if you've installed the controller with a local instance of Studio, you'll have these APIs available to you. And you can obviously use it either locally or remotely to drive XenDesktop and XenApp. So the first example I kind of wanted to give was really around, in XenDesktop and XenApp, you have machine catalogs. These are groups of machines that are built from the same master image. So this could be Windows 7, Server 2012 R2, Windows Server 2008 R2. And you have delivery groups. Now, delivery groups link users to the end resource. So this could be catalogs of machines or applications. Now, supposing you've your admin is busy away allocating delivery groups, consuming the back-end catalog. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you could separate out that allocation and have means of alerting, capacity monitoring for your back-end catalogs? This would mean if you've got two different teams responsible for building, maintaining the catalogs, and creating delivery groups, you can create an automated workflow that doesn't have to involve Studio. So, you could monitor the availability, okay, recognize that I'm now short on machines and have a script that would go off and create those machines for you and put them into the machine catalog. So there's a bit more code involved. I've included some of that in the notes for the PowerPoint. So when that's published next week, that will be available to you. But there's kind of really two commands I wanted to highlight. One is the get desktop broker group. This kind of returns the useful information back from the delivery group. Unfortunately, you will notice that because of trying to maintain backward compatibility with XenDesktop 5.6, we've had to keep the name desktop group rather than moving to the new name of delivery group. Once you've got the information back, you can then parse that information to work out the capacity, and then use that to then create new machines within that existing delivery group. The second example that I wanted to kind of call out was how you could essentially have a portal that published a list of available applications that might be within a master image. You could then create a workflow that would allow other administrators or business unit owners to come along and say, actually, I would like to make PowerPoint available within that delivery group for my users. Suppose you've got 10, 15 delivery groups, you could then request that that PowerPoint application is published into those delivery groups. Makes it a lot easier than having to go in and use Studio. And it also means that you can open it up to people who wouldn't normally be familiar with the Studio tool. And there's only really one command available here, required here. And I'll just kind of pretty much talk you through. You need the path to the executable, the name of that executable, so PowerPoint. Hosted on desktop, that just really tells the SDK that this is an app running on a desktop. Now that's a server desktop or a Windows desktop. And the priority. Now the priority kind of comes into play when you've got multiple delivery groups. And this is really a way of saying, actually this is the primary delivery group, priority 0, and then priority 1 is kind of essentially a failover delivery group. So you can kind of really have delivery groups that match up to machine catalogs that may be higher performant machines, and you want users to prefer those, and maybe the backup delivery group is in the event of failure or overconsumption of the first one. Now I'd like to draw your attention to the PowerShell window. This is actually within the Studio console. So you'll notice across the top you've got Common Tasks, Actions and PowerShell. Select the PowerShell tab and it will show you every single command that is executed within Studio. So this is a pretty great way of just going, cutting and pasting code. You perform the action you want, copy and paste the code, then modify it, tweak it to do what you need to drive your automation. Best resources for getting started are eDocs. Just navigate down to XenApp, XenDesktop, select the Manage node, and away you go. You'll get access to some examples of creating code for catalogs, PVD desktops, and you'll find the complete PowerShell command help as well. Obviously that's available at the command line as well. It's also where you can get access to the Open Data API that I referred to, that's used by Director to provide all the reporting information. So basically this would allow you to build your own reporting engine or extract data from the Director monitoring database and pull it into your own external third-party reporting tool. A great way for partners to innovate, or even partners who work with many customers and want to add some extra value around their Citrix offering to their customers. integrating with other reporting engines that they know their clients use. So let's kind of just quickly wrap up. I'd like to refer you to the developer.citrix.com website. There's a survey. We're always interested in making our APIs better. I'd be keen to hear if anyone is looking for a RESTful API, whether that would be of interest. Is that something that you would perhaps, a REST API, would that, what sort of scenarios would you like to see that for?
So right now we have scripts that we use to
Yeah, sure.
So right now we have some automation that we build around the deploying of some of our VMs that facilitate our environment, and we provision and add them into our desktop or delivery groups with PowerShell scripts. But it would actually probably be easier from the machines that are doing the automation to be able to just call the REST APIs to our studio to do the work versus having to then run just PowerShell scripts. So it would make it a little bit easier to all be in the same language. So.
I'm happy to take any other questions. Oh, hang on a second. You'll need to come into the field of view.
How does the monitoring work? Are there APIs to do that so you get feedback, or do you just ask for statistics on the fly?
Sure. So the question was around how does the monitoring work? So the VDA, the virtual delivery agent that runs on the desktop or the server operating system, query metrics from the VM, pass it back to the broker, which gets stored in the monitoring database. The Director console then uses the Open Data API to query that database and render the statistics, the graphs within Director. So you can get exactly that same data out using the Open Data API rather than having to rely on the console. So if there's a particular reporting engine that you want to feed data in and see it alongside other information, then that's available to you. Cool. Sorry, did you want the previous slide? Yes, cool. Thank you. Excellent. So the slides will be available on the 19th of May. As I mentioned, there's a bit more code in some of the notes. Please feel free to reach out to us, and if you've got questions, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you very much.